Okay, so this is the second of my accent tutorial things. And I said yesterday a lot about, well, I talked about the trigger as a concept, a way of giving yourself an in to an accent. And all of the triggers that I said yesterday were well-known phrases, well-known sayings. We had to be sure, for the Irish accent, and certificate for the certificate accent. Those are very common accent triggers. People, as soon as they say them, they end up speaking in that accent. But an important thing is that the trigger doesn't have to be one of those generic, common, often thought of things. It doesn't need to be sure and hoots for the Scottish. It can be something quite personal. I found a couple of random triggers that are just from when I've been playing with my voice, which I do slightly more than I should. One day I was on my way to an audition, and I was doing a piece by Vanbrugh. My character was Lord Foppington. I was just reciting the speech, on and on and on, because I was slightly concerned about the accent. And the speech sort of went, "I rise, madam, about 10 o'clock. I don't rise sooner, because 'tis the worst thing in the world for the complexion. Not that I pretend to be a beau, but a man must endeavour to the course unless to cast so nauseous a figure in the sidebox that the lady should be compelled to turn their eyes upon the play." But one time I was reciting the speech over in the street. I must have got several funny looks. I mispronounced the "not" for some reason. I don't know. I was looking at something, or caught a glimpse of something shiny in a mirror or something, and I went "nah" as opposed to "not," and that just suddenly went, "Oh, I like the way that sounded." That sounded sort of American to me. I just went "nah." And that sort of short O, quite clipped word, sounded to my ears quite an Americanized noise. And I was really I had been looking for a good way of doing an American accent, because a lot of the accents come from people that I know. I know a South African bloke and a few Irish people, and so I pick up the accents from them. My dad's from Yorkshire, so I got the Yorkshire accent off that. I just sort of pick it up as you go along, as I learned to speak. I had a slight Yorkshire twang. My dad's not got an accent quite like this, I hasten to add, lest he give me a clip round here. But he went up to Yorkshire, to Harrogate, exactly, and that gave me the exposure to the Yorkshire accent. But I don't know any Americans. I live in England. There aren't that many around. And this sudden "nut" was a really nice noise. I was like, oh, I can use that. And that one word, "nah," has become my trigger for an American accent, because it reminds me of how it felt when I was saying that. I was completely by accident. It was just a random thing that happened. But I picked it up and I went, "Oh, that's great. So now I can kind of do an American accent." Again, I'm sure that people are going to tell me that this is atrocious and no one in America actually sounds like this. But to my, anglicized ears, it sounds quite American. And I can keep it up for a really long time, because all I need to do is throw in a negative somewhere and go, "No, that's not what I'm saying." I can keep that up. The trigger brings it back round. I mean, it's not like a recognizable American accent. It's not like a Brooklyn accent or somewhere from the deep south. It's just a generic American accent, and I can keep it up for quite a long time. That's another thing that is very difficult if you're talking in an accent. Sorry, I'll go back to English. If you're talking in an accent, it's quite hard to keep it up for a while, though the speech patterns are so deeply ingrained in you that the ease with which you can keep an accent up is is like a massive, massive deal. If you can find a nice way of saying the accent, of the way it sounds, keeping it going, you've got half the battle there. Even if this accent sounds a bit dodgy, a consistent dodgy accent sounds better than a sporadic good one. By miles, they just think you sound a bit funny, rather than, oh, he's trying to do an American accent, but every time he says the word banana, he sounds like an Irish meadow. It's strange. That is an important thing, being able to keep it up consistently. I also said that consonants, yesterday I said that vowels are the important parts of language, and I still think that's the case. But it's not 100% true. There's always exceptions. For instance, with a Yorkshire accent, you actually cut out a lot of vowels. And you end up sort of cutting words in half, shortening things, and then vowels have a lesser impact in the way accent sounds. It's a lot of the time it's about the way that the words end. For instance, there you had a very long, very recognisably Yorkshire words, but the D was very pronounced, as was sort of the S, the words. It was very much a consonant-based noise, which is rare for some accents, and quite a lot of the time it is all about the vowels. But I just want to bear in mind that you can't just ignore consonants and just speak in a series of vowels, because then you'll end up sounding like you're from Newcastle. Excuse me, I'm a little bit ill, so... No, I'm not tiny. It's an enormous mug. I like my tea. I'm English, what can I say? So, there we go, I remember where I was going with this. You've also got the problem of regional disparities within its own accent. So, for instance, you got as I said, in the last video, there was you got the two different types of Irish, and a lot of people, when they think of an Irish accent, will just think of one or just think of the other. They go, yes, I can do an Irish accent. That's great. I'm fabulous. It's not quite true. You can do an Irish accent, but it's not applicable in all situations. I learned this myself with the Welsh accent. My girlfriend at the time, currently, is half Welsh, and I kept doing a Welsh accent to annoy her, the way that people do. I'm a bad person, I know. But it wasn't the Welsh accent from where she's from. I kept doing the Tom Jones Welsh accent. It's very much a sing-song accent. It's sort of like this. It's from the valleys. It's Daffydd in the valleys Welsh accent. But she wasn't from that part of Wales. It wasn't anything to do with her. She had the Rod Gilbert Welsh accent. You got the Tom Jones, not really Tom Jones, but easiest way of describing it. And then the Rod Gilbert Welsh accent, which is I don't know if people know him, he's the Welsh comedian who sort of popped up a couple of years ago with his wonderful random speeches of spewing vitriol, which only really works in that particularly Welsh accent. You've got in this sort of Welsh accent, it's very much more slack-jawed. You have a much more open mouth, and you sort of almost lisp a bit. That's the way I can do it. But the key point was that I didn't really think of this as a Welsh accent. It hadn't really occurred to me. But the more I think about it, there are quite a lot of the Welsh accents I hear. Jeff from Coupling, for instance, with his just, again, random rants. It sort of suits this speech type. The random rants. It's very definitely Welsh. It's nowhere else, is it? It's got it's again got the same in both of them. They've got the way that the sentence ends. It goes up at the end of the sentence for no apparent reason. It's a bit like the Australian question intonation, but it's Welsh. Don't know why, but that's the way that it works. It's how they speak, possibly because they're quite a cheerful nation. But I hadn't really registered the existence of two Welsh accents. If you're looking for ways of doing accents, the most important thing is to just keep your ears open. Make sure you listen, repeat everything that you do, and if you manage to find a way of doing an accent, don't like forget it, because that's horrific. I've done that before. I found a wonderful accent. I found how to do a brilliant Marvin the Martian accent, and I can't remember how to do it for the life of me. It's a skill. It's like speaking French or Italian or any language or anything that you can do. If you don't do it frequently enough, you'll lose the ability to. And if you focus too much on something else, again, you'll lose the ability to. I was practicing my Cockney accent for an audition, and I lost the ability to do any other accent, and that terrified me. You need to make sure that when you're practicing one accent and practicing another accent, you don't neglect the others. Every now and again, I'll just spend a day speaking in Irish. Well, mostly because it annoys people and that amuses me. Like I said, I'm a bad person. But also, because it's an important thing. It's part of who I am. I define myself quite definitely as the accent guy. And if I lose the accent guy, it's quite a big part of who I am gone. I need to be able to do the accents, and it was a crisis of conscience or existential dilemma. It felt really strange. I couldn't do any other accent apart from this Cockney accent, which was pretty pants in the first place. So, at the end of that long rambling speech, key points are practice a lot, because practicing is very, very useful, and you learn things, and you can also experiment. And if you experiment, then you can find interesting ways of speaking, like the accidental American accent. I'm not saying it's the best American accent in the world, but it's the best one that I can do, personally. I know that's something I need to work on, because I like being able to say I can do all this many accents. Like I can say hedgehog in 14 languages or something. It's just something nice to do. It's a bit weird, but it's fun. I like weird. Weird's better than normal. And again, make sure that you're aware of the different types of accent in a location. Don't just go, Welsh accent, done. Go, this Welsh accent, and then I'll work on this Welsh accent. And that's about it. My throat is absolutely killing me because I'm rather ill. And so I'm going to drink my enormous mug of milky, sugary tea and suck on 43 strepsils. Again, if you want anything, any questions, anything interesting, please just put it down. It will give me something else to ramble about. I quite like rambling. So, you'll be doing me a favour as well. Alright, ta-ra!